Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by drroto.com.
It is time once again for everybody to come aboard that green screens train. What is up? You are now in your fast break for all things college basketball. You are now in one and done. I am your humble conductor of this train we call Green Screens Media tonight. My name is Jay Heinrich. You can follow me on Twitter at Dr. William Cannon. But I know why you're here. And it's not just because this guy can grow a better mustache than me. This guy is the captain of our ship, El Capitano himself. You can follow him on Twitter at MCHolland34. And if you're not, you should be, and you should be ashamed of yourself. Follow him on Twitter. Here he is, that dude, Mr. Mike Holland. What's up, Mike?
Yo, thanks for the introduction, man. I feel like a rock star. So what I need to do is be able to rock this slate out tomorrow. So
yes.
Yeah, looking forward to it, man. Usually we take Fridays off from all the action, since it's usually some random teams and random games, random tournaments, and really just want to spend the time getting ready for the 12 gamers that we have. We've got one football game left to rule them all. So we are in complete basketball mode, and March is rapidly approaching, man. I mean, short month here, and in 3 weeks we'll be in March. So I'm looking forward to it. Also looking forward to taking down some of this cash, man. So some really nice slates that are out there, and looking forward to doing the show and doing it. Me and you here, man. We kicked that other guy Eric out, so he's out enjoying his night. So let's have a good one.
Yeah, we're going to spend this tonight, just me and you, man, and it's going to be a good one. Of course, it's always great when Eric's here. You can follow our guy Eric at Fantasy Nav on Twitter. If you're not following him, make sure you get him on your feed. So, like Mike was saying, we've got a 12-game slate tomorrow. Tips at noon Eastern time. Got a couple of contests, 3 contests actually we're going to be paying a little bit of attention to. At $15 entry, $5K to first, pull-up, jumper, and then there's 2 bonanza seats on the line here, a couple of qualifiers, a $30 one for seat number 22 and a $95 one for seat number 23. So we know where we're going to be focusing some of our attention. We know where we're going to be putting in some of those lineups. Now it's time to talk a little bit about this slate, Mike. So, you look at these, there's a couple of games in the 140s, one that stands out in the high 150s, and then a couple that, in the words of Vincent Kennedy McMahon, makes me want to puke. Got 125 in Michigan State and Rutgers, but we may talk about that a little bit later, somebody on one of those teams. So, Mike, we got a little split environments here. We got some pace-up games. Other half look ugly, like I was saying. Now, the last time we got together, or one of the last times we got together, we had like 23 guys at 8K or more. A couple of shows before that, it was 17 guys at 8K or more. And now we're sitting here talking, and we're looking at only 15 guys at 8K or higher. So, value is going to be tough to find, but there's a couple of spots that we may look at here. Solid mid-tier plays as well. Mike, real quick, tell me a little bit about the Vanderbilt Ole Miss game that we're going to look at. There's some injury news that we pay attention to, and then maybe a little other stuff too.
Yeah, so in that slate, it's going to be interesting. We'll have to follow the injury news. Looks like Vanderbilt could have a couple of guys that are out. Ole Miss, dealing with an injury, and just had a player, Ruffin here, decide that he's going to take the rest of the year off. So yeah, it's going to be some guys in there that we're going to want to attack. Like you said, man, it's kind of crazy. We were used to how tight the pricing was the last slate that we talked about, and now we've got pretty much do what you want for the most part. The mid-tier looks pretty solid, man. So there's a lot of good plays here. You're kind of going to be able to do what you want if you play this Vanderbilt Ole Miss value correctly, which is probably the way that you want to go here. So so I'm looking forward to this one. It should be a little bit easier than what it was the last time we talked.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good opportunity here to, it's going to be a little bit tougher to pinpoint that value, but I think we've got a good idea of a couple of different ways to approach this slate. All right, so like always, we've got 3 showcase games that we're going to go through, and then after that, we're going to, give you some high tier, mid tier, low tier guys to consider. All the rankings we're going to talk about today are all KenPom projections, and as well as the score projections that we use. Point totals, spreads, all that good stuff. That is for your reference. So with that being said, Mike, let's go ahead and jump into this game. The highest scoring total of the day at 158. Illinois traveling to Iowa. Iowa, a 2-point favorite here. KenPom projected score 79-77 in favor of Iowa. But let's start with the Fighting Illini first, Mike. 58th offensive efficiency, 15th defensive efficiency, and 65th in tempo. So a lot of, this is a good team, 16-6, 7-4 in the conference, and, trying to find a way to, take that next step. But this is going to be a tough matchup for them in Iowa. Who are we looking at on this Illinois roster?
Yeah, I mean, first thing you always look at the slate and you say, well, where are the big totals at? Where can I attack? So for this Illinois side, right, this is a hefty amount of points here that KenPom's projecting. 77 for the Illinois side. And, you've obviously got someone like Terrence Shannon. I don't know that I'm going to get to him. I'm really looking at some guys to kind of be different here. Now, the one popular guy is probably going to be Matthew Mayer. He's 7,700 here. So, with Mayer, I've been playing him a lot. He's got that guard forward eligibility in there. Coming off the 28, they really disappointed on the last game out. But we've seen him get into that 40 piece a couple of times over the last 5 games. So Matthew Mayer is definitely someone that I'm going to want to attack here. 21% usage rate, 26% shot rate, shooting 37% from 3, even going in a 6% block rate and does some rebounding here. So, in this pace-up spot that, Iowa likes to push the ball, even though Illinois is ranked 65th, Iowa's 45th. So, there's going to be a lot of possessions in this game. Mayer is definitely someone that could take advantage of that. He's probably my favorite option. You can also look at Coleman Hawkins if you're playing the large field tournament, the pull-up jumper. You're not going to want to touch this guy in single entry, cash game style. He's 7,800. So for me, Coleman Hawkins, the forward here, he kind of does a little bit of everything. But if I'm going to pay this much at 7,800, I'd rather the usage rate be a little bit higher here. So for Coleman Hawkins, we've seen him put up 50, but it's just so rare. At 7,800 that I don't really know if I'm going to get to him. I'd rather just pay the $100 down and play Matthew Mayer. So if the guy could knock down some threes, he'd probably be pretty dangerous, shooting under 30% from 3 this year. So if you want to take a shot at him, like if you're playing 20 lineups and you want to throw him in one to see if he can maybe break the slate with a 45 or a 50 bomb, I don't mind it. I just pay the $100 down and get the exposure to Matthew Mayer, who can play in the guard or the forward spot. All these other guys, Dane Danger, he's $7K. The price is too expensive, just not the guaranteed minutes here. Jaden Epps had a pretty nice game last time out, but his price has come up from 4,800 to 5,000. I don't know. I don't really see a 20 fantasy point ceiling, 25 point fantasy ceiling, which is what you're going to want to have him get to again. This pace up, so it could happen. If you're digging down here in the dumps, the one guy that I would look at, there's actually 2. I know we all got burned by RJ Melendez the other day. 3,600, didn't do anything.
Absolutely.
Just absolutely killed us, right? I think he was 34% in the Bonanza qualifier. Just burned all 34% of those lineups. Ty Rogers is actually the guy that kind of got the run there. He's 3,900, so he's also got guard forward eligibility. I don't mind, man. 20 fantasy points the last time out. Pace up, if they want to play him a little bit more, right? If he's going to get, we just don't know who's going to get the run out of these guys, right? So we know the big minutes are going to Shannon, they're going to Hawkins, they're going to Mayer. It's just what's the rotation of the other guys around them going to look like. So, yeah, I think for me the priority is Mayer. May throw in one Hawkins if I'm playing 20 lineups and maybe a Ty Rogers here or there. Jay, is this a spot where Terrence Shannon you want to attack, and What do you think about him at 8,400?
All right, so we talked earlier on in the show that this is a slate where there's not a lot of guys at above that 8K threshold, and really there aren't many more people more expensive than 8,400. This is obviously a premium pay here, but in a slate where there aren't those dynamic forwards like a Sheboy, or a Baycott or something like that. I mean, sorry, there aren't as many premium forwards, so it does make sense to go ahead and spend up a little bit at guard because those guys they can go up for 60 or 70 aren't there at forward anyway. So looking at Shannon, the 27% usage rate, you got to like that a lot. 26% shot rate, 20% assist rate. Chippy chip here, a little bit of steal here and there, 2%. Shoots 32% from threes, 115 attempts. So if he gets hot and makes his threes, he has that upside for 40 fantasy points. He's had a big game at Indiana. We've seen the 40-point ceiling there, but he can excel in a pace-up spot, Mike. And this is one of those situations where, Illinois is 65th, but then you look over across at Iowa, and this is a team that is 45th in tempo. So this is a pace-up spot there for Shannon Jr. So big proponent there of paying up for a guard in that situation. Let's move to the other side of this lineup now, Mike. We're going to go to Iowa, who's 14-8 overall, 6-5 in the conference, 6th offensive efficiency. So top 6 there, 135th defensive efficiency. Not too bad. But we've touched on a little bit ago, 45th in the tempo, Mike. We talk about Iowa a lot when they're on the slate on this show, and tonight is no exception. A couple of favorites that we have, including one that paid off for us and rewarded us for playing him last time around. Where are we looking here for the Hawkeyes? Here's another one of those big money options here. This is one of the few over 9K at all. So, what's the thought here approaching the Hawkeyes?
Yeah, it always starts with Chris Murray and what to do with him. I like him more now that there's not, like you said, all these other guys aren't on the slate, right? So you don't have to worry about choosing between one out of like the 6 guys. Like, the other day it was like ridiculous when Trace Jackson Davis ended up being the one that destroyed the slate. So there's not really that gamble. So I do like him. He's been a little bit annoying at this price point. I wish he was sub 9K. But the rates are there, man. It's just whether or not he just gets enough and whether or not Rebraca takes away from him, essentially. And that's exactly what happened last time. I believe I got Rebraca at like 6% last slate, and he went off for a 40 bomb. So, when he goes off for a 40 bomb, that's going to limit Chris Murray's upside, which Murray still ended up getting 32, but at 9,200, that's just not enough. So, for Rebraca, it's like, double action here, can grab a block or two, even throw up an assist. So I definitely don't mind him at 7,400. This is a weird game, even though it has one of the highest totals. It's pretty tough to pay for some of these guys. I like your point on Shannon, right? Like, he could explode at any moment. He hasn't really shown that recently. Do love Matthew Mayer on that side. On this side, the price is a little tough on Murray. Rebraca, yes and no. Dane Danger is a little annoying in the middle there. Coleman Hawkins, can muck it up with his athleticism. So I don't know that I want to get to either two. Where usually I'm like, if I have 20 lineups, like I'm playing one or the other on each lineup, you know what I mean? But if I'm playing 20 lineups this time, maybe, out of 10 of those or maybe even 8 of those, I'm just kind of splitting the difference between the two. So that's probably what my strategy is going to be right now. If you're playing like single entry or like cash game, I think you have to just play Chris Murray. He's basically a lock for 30 fantasy points if we're playing cash game style. So for large field tournaments, though, man, you got all these other guys down here. You got Perkins at 6K, Connor McCaffrey 6K, Peyton Sandford's almost 6K. Aaron Eulis's price has jumped up, so you no longer I don't think he's in the player pool at 5,500. We liked him when he was 4.2, 4.5. Patrick McCaffrey at 5,300. There's not enough minutes, right? So there's all these guards that are just soaking up all these other 3 spots on the court. when you know Rebraca and Murray are going to play 32 to 40 minutes essentially at that 4 and 5 spot. So, yeah, it's probably a pass for me. Outside of the Murray Rebraca, where I'm kind of splitting the difference on maybe 40% of my lineups. What are your thoughts on all these other guards? I mean, are you going to take a shot at any of these guys? Is there one that maybe sticks out to you?
Yeah, it's Tony Perkins. It's fantasy sports, right? Fantasy sports or sports in general, opportunity is key. And Perkins has been getting it. He's played 28 minutes or more in the last 5. Great GPP play here. Okay, so if you want to get away from the Murray Rebraca, it's going to be hard for me to get away from Rebraca, and I think that 9%, that's going to be wishful thinking this time around, especially because he didn't get too big of a bump here at his current price. But for me, it's Perkins. You like the usage at 22%. You like the shot rate at 22%. Chips in some assists, 16% assist rate, 3% steal rate. Does a little bit of everything. And it's just, if they're not getting the minutes, it's hard for me to put you in. We know that Perkins is going to get that opportunity, going to get those minutes. So that's why I'm thinking about if I play somebody besides Murray or Rebraca there, it's going to be Perkins. And, maybe even, I don't know, do you even try to figure out a way if you feel like Rebraca's that dude and maybe get a little Perkins in with him and try to squeeze something in somewhere else? It's possible to maybe stack those guys at Rebraca's price still, but that's just something to consider there. Mike, are there any stacks, anything that you would look at in this game?
Yeah, I mean, that kind of makes some sense. If you're to stack it, I don't know that I want to go Perkins and Murray because it feels like too many fantasy points, right? Sure. But Rebraca and Perkins, I mean, could make for an interesting stack on one side. I don't know that I want to go more than a one-off scenario in this game or maybe even a 1-1. So maybe, one of those 3 that we kind of highlighted there with one of the 3 that we talked about on the Illinois side, a Shannon, a Hawkins, a Mayer. I mean, right now, honestly, I'm probably looking at Mayer along with Chris Murray or Philip Rebraca. But I could also see your point there on Terrence Shannon. Like, I mean, he's got slate breaking. We've seen him put up a 55 before. So, like, it wouldn't surprise me if he had 51 fantasy points, right? He just hasn't been as consistent lately. So I don't mind using him in a one-off or a 1-1 scenario. But for this total, it's kind of crazy that unless you want to play someone like Rodgers with Shannon or with Mayer, right, and then you can kind of get to that 2-2 format with Rebraca and Perkins on the other side, there's a lot of things that have to go right in that scenario. There's just not like the injury value that you see in some of these other games. And it's just tough with the price points, right? And, it's just mucked up by a bunch of guards on the Iowa side, and just the fact that there's so much uncertainty with who's going to be the guy outside of Mayer and Shannon. Like, one night it's Hawkins, the next night Dane Danger explodes. Who are the cheap guys? Like, is it going to Melendez going to get 25 minutes, or is it going to be Ty Rodgers, or is it going to be Jaden Epps? Like, and even those guys, like, getting to 4 and 5X, it feels like you're just like praying for every single shot they take to go in, praying for that like tipped board off of Mayer's hands to fall into Melendez's lap. Like, that's just the way to have. I've done it plenty of times, right? That's how you have a heart attack playing CBB DFS. But sometimes take a shot at it. This game goes over, right? You're a 2-2 in this game and an 86 to 82 point total. I'm probably going to have one lineup that features at least a 2-2 in this game. But for the most part, it's more of a one-off type game or even a 1-1 environment for me.
Yeah, I could definitely see stacking up this game on both sides. And if you're playing a ton of lineups, like, it's worth a shot because this total is just so big compared to everything else on this slate. And like you said, it gets up into the 80s. You get an overtime in this game, like, you're talking big time fantasy points for your side. So, hey, listen up, everybody. That's game number 1. It's in the books. Okay. Now, Mike's putting in all this work. Eric's putting in all this work. I'm putting in some work, all this work with these guys. And you're here watching us. While you're here, why don't you smash those like and subscribe button for us? We'd appreciate that. We appreciate you being here tonight as well. So, appreciate you guys chiming in or being here with us tonight. We got let's look at who's over here in the comments over here tonight. Oh, there he is. It's our guy Eric.
I thought he was on a date tonight, man.
Let's find some women. Well, you couldn't miss that. He had to be a part of the show. He knew we were we were out here in these streets, and he wanted to
stay away, man.
to hop in. Hey, yeah, we appreciate that though. All right, so let's move on now to this second game, Mike. I'm gonna go ahead and look at what is this second game. All right, Wake Forest, Demon Deacons. Traveling to those Golden Domers, Notre Dame fighting Irish, 153-point total on this one. We've got the second highest total on the slate. KenPom predicted score is 78-75 in favor of those fighting Tim Duncans. And that's where we're going to start here tonight, Mike, with those Demon Deacons. 14-9 overall, 6-6 in the conference, are coming in on a 4-game slide. Not the best way to go into Notre Dame. KenPom metrics, 27th offensive efficiency, 164th defensive, 93rd in tempo, so does get up and down a little bit. Mike, and some interesting plays here, some mid-tier options. You know, some guys, again, where they get hot and in that mid-tier and put up a 40 burger, and then you're sitting pretty. So how are you approaching the Demon Deacons in this matchup? You know, even though they're on a little bit of a slide, still got some guys that can contribute to your lineup.
Yeah, so we talked about the first game. This game I like a lot, and really a 2-2-2-1 environment. Both of these teams aren't great defensively. I mean, Notre Dame's 287th in defensive efficiency. Wake Forest, 93rd in tempo, so they're going to pace these guys up. There's a big floor for Wake Forest, but I think a couple of guys outside of the big four could be interesting here. So you have obviously Tyree Appleby, right? Like went scorched earth last game. Unfortunately, when his price tag gets this high, I just don't want to pay for him because you have Carr, Hildreth, Monsanto, like just cheaper, right? But, you know, for me, Appleby, it's like, now he's 8,700. Yeah, so easily could put up 40 fantasy points again. We know what he does. High usage rate, high assist rate, can shoot the 3 ball. It wouldn't surprise me if he had 42 fantasy points. It's just that price tag, man. It just keeps going up, and I don't know, man. I feel like you got to sell high, right? So for me, I'm looking at Cam Hildreth because I'm trying to buy low. How low can he go? I don't know, because he's hurt me the last couple of slates. And the price is, yeah, kind of annoying still. It's 7,700. You'd feel like he would come down in price a little bit, but it hasn't, which should hopefully keep some people away because hopefully people will want to play Appleby or some of these other guys in this game. But, man, with Hildreth, it's just the rates, man, and what he can do when he's not in foul trouble, which he was in last game. Last couple of games, actually. A 23% usage rate, 22% shot rate, 23% combined rebounding rate, 17% assist rate, 2% steal rate, 32% from 3. So, you know, if he gets hot a little bit from 3, it could really break this thing open. You know, consistently in the 30s for most of the year. Has popped off for the high 30s. I like him, especially in single entry and cash game style. I really do like him a lot here. So, yeah, I'll be clicking the button a lot here. Don't think you can really play him with Appleby because obviously that's a massive price tag to pay together. Damari Monsanto, he's 6,600. Man, the guy just shoots a ton of threes, man. Like, it's ridiculous. A 31% shot rate. He's taking 173s this year. He's 6,600. I mean, if he hits 6 or 7 threes, right, he's going to score in the 30 fantasy point range. So he's definitely in my player pool. You know, Notre Dame 264th in defensive, or 287th defensive efficiency. Like, some of these weight guys should be able to go off in this spot. So I do like Andrew Carr, but probably not as much as Matthew Marsh and Davian Williamson and Bobby Clintman. Like, one of those 3 guys I feel like is going to have a nice game. Now, we saw Marsh at 4K, like, kind of disappear. All those minutes last game went to Bobby Clintman, who is 3,200. So I don't know if he's going to get 30 minutes again, but if he got 25, I would, you know, be heavily interested in. 18 fantasy points last game. Super talented. Just needs some minutes here. I think he's going to be one of those guys we'll put on the breakout radar like we did Monsanto this past summer. 3,200, man, forward position, especially the forward position where there's none of the opportunity cost where, you know, you play a guy there and all of a sudden you can't, you know, you're giving up the Sheetway 70 bomb or the TJD 70 bomb. So actually a decent spot to maybe play a Marsh or a Clintman. Davian Williamson got the start over Matthew Marsh last game, going a little bit smaller. Man, 3,600, I don't know. He's just annoying. He's just a microwave. He has to score to make it happen. And when he's not scoring, he's legitimately not doing anything. And the minutes were just 19, even though he started. So don't know that I really want to go there. But if you're playing 20 lineups and you want to get a 3-2 or a 2-2 stack in here, he's a decent spot to look at. He only needs to score 13 real life points to to pay out that off, and the ball finds him a couple of times, or he finds an assist or two or a steal. Then you could be paying off that salary. So for me, those are kind of the guys, man. Just because they're cheap, right? So I'm looking at maybe a Hildreth and stacking with the Clintman, maybe a Appleby with the Clintman. Might be doing it wrong, man. Like Andrew Carr. What's your take on Carr, and where are you at with him? Are you going to be jamming him into a lot of your lineups, or are you going to be going with the guards like I am?
I think I'm more likely to play Carr in this scenario than some of these guards. I like Monsanto because of the upside he possesses with the threes. I mean, that's at that price, it's starting to get up there. It's starting to creep up a little bit. But outside of that, Carr is somebody you like the usage, 19%, 20% shot rate, 23% combined rebounding rate, which you like because, as we know, Notre Dame can't rebound the ball very well at all. So might be an opportunity for Carr here at 7,700. Get a little cheapy double-double action there with some boards. Worth taking a look at there. And, he's shown within the last 5, he's put up 44, 23, 27, 30, 27. So, at 7,700, we're going to want it to be, make sure we're at 30 at the least to get that 4X look a little bit. But, to get up into that 35, 38 range would be great. And I think Carr has the ability to do that here in this spot. We like to find that value. And, Appleby he's, again, it's an upside thing, right? Like we've seen at the 48, you get 48 out of him, you get 42 out of him. Yeah, it's worth that price. But it worries me, those 24s and those 28s in there do worry me a little bit. So I will take a little bit of a discount, pay a 1K less, and look at taking Carr there in that moment. All right, so moving on now to the other half of this game, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, who are 10-12, 2-9, not playing their best brand of basketball here, Mike, that we have sort of gotten accustomed to seeing Notre Dame play a little bit better brand of basketball than this. But they are efficient offensively, 67th, 287th defensive efficiency, 321st in tempo. So an opportunity here to search for some value in a pace-up spot for them. Who are some of the guys for Notre Dame that might be able to take take advantage of this opportunity?
Yeah, I like the Notre Dame side too. I feel like two of these guys, usually two of these guys, because the rotation is just so short, two of these guys typically go off. Nate Laszewski, he's just annoying. One, for the price, two, because he should be firing off 30s and 40s regularly. And yeah, it's happened a few times over the last 5 games, but for the most part on the season, he's been a little frustrating. So I don't know, 7,300. Okay, if you're playing 20, 25 lineups, should you have a share or two? Yes. It's just a little bit easier. Save yourself some coin. Go down to a couple of these guys like Dane Goodwin. He's 6,700. Has flashed 30 fantasy point upside recently multiple times. Cormac Ryan, we got him right. I believe it was last Saturday's slate. Put up a 34, 29-29 the 2 games before that. So a couple of these guys, especially at these price points, should be able to get into the low 30s at least. I was off JJ Starling because we were all playing our guy Marcus Hammond on that last Saturday slate, but JJ Starling just went up, put up a 32 burger on us, and then he had a 30 the game before after going 8, 13, and 9. So usage rate on Starling's climbing up. All these guys, man, it's kind of crazy, man. For as well as these guys shoot the three, Laszewski 42%, Dane Goodwin 39%, Cormac Ryan 39%, even Starling's 32, which is, it's not great, but when you factor in like how well this team shoots the three, if they just were a little bit better, which is where Paul Atkinson came in last year at that center position and was able to play some defense, they just can't play any defense with Lejeski at the at the 5 spot. So for me, I guess if I'm not really prioritizing these guys, I'm just really rotating, playing definitely one guy from Notre Dame probably on every single lineup. And then, where I'm game stacking or other lineups, like I'll probably have 2 of these guys. I'm a little hurt by kind of what happened with Hammond last time out. Are you thinking about going back to the Hammond well for old time's sake?
Damn, he burned us both so bad. Like it was 13 spot, man. Like I think he was. We really I know I focused on him quite a bit and just expected more. And I think he was pretty highly rostered and just, burned a lot of people. So, it wasn't just us, man. He did.
Yeah, I think it's 33% or something on those.
Yeah, it was definitely low 30s at a minimum. And, it happens that way sometimes. But I'm going to go back to that well again. I can't. I wish I knew how to quit you, Marcus Hammond. I wish I did, but I can't. Yeah, it's, coming off that stinker, obviously, like I said, that 13-point fantasy point night. But, you got the 30 mixing in, got the 27, got the 26. You start getting into those high 20s, which he's capable of, especially when you still like the usage rate at 20%. You still like the 21% shot rate, 13% assist rate, chips those in every now and then. But here's the thing. He does shoot 43% from 3, but he's only taking 61. You'd like to see him take a few more. And if he does, and if he's hitting – that's the Marcus Hammond that we need to see. So, again, we talked about minutes earlier, getting the opportunity. If you're on the floor, that's opportunity to score fantasy points for your lineup. He's playing big minutes. And one of these guys from Notre Dame ends up, going off, ends up popping off. So, for me, I mean, it is Hammond. He's somebody to consider when we are, looking at it's 5,800. I mean, it's going to be hard for me to stay away from him again. I think he'll still have a 30% rostered percentage, maybe a little bit lower, but at that rate, knowing what the ceiling is, I feel like a lot of guys and gals playing the game are still going to be in on Hammond. So, got through that second game here, Mike. Any stacking, I think Hammond is a really nice stacking opportunity here for Notre Dame. Are you going any 1-1, 2-1 in this lineup? Because it's still a good total, 153, still a good total. Lots of points are going to be scored. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I like just mixing and matching. I don't mind playing a Goodwin with Lejeski or Hammond with Ryan or Ryan with Goodwin, even a Starling with Goodwin. Like, it feels like 2 of these guys are going to go for 4.5 or 5X. Like, it's just what they do. Like, a floor is 4X for at least 2 of these guys, like every single slate, because, Vanilla and Lubin, he's out. Wirtz is just kind of there. And these other 5 guys just play 30 minutes. So, pace up spot, gameplay's in the 70s. Like, you got to like Notre Dame's side, especially being at home. And then you love the Wake Forest side because these guys produce fantasy points, right? And they've also got cheap options this time where you can get to the 2-2 or the 3-2. So, going to have a lot of exposure in my lineups to this game. We'll just hope it, if by the 14-minute mark, if the score is 7-2, then that's pretty much how my last week is gone. And I'm just throwing in the towel.
Sometimes you just got to know when to do it. Just accept your fate and move on. And we do that quite often, but that's all right. Okay, 2 games down. Got some, a little bit of options, how to approach it, some people to, take a look at on each one of those high projected scores. Thanks for hanging out with us, y'all. If you're here watching, leave us a comment. Let us know who you're looking at. Give Mike a shout out. Give Mike a shout out for the old little Vince Young jersey in the background. It's looking good back there. But yeah, man, we appreciate y'all checking in with us, and let us know what you think. Like and subscribe if you can. We appreciate you. Corey hanging in, Jay with the new card in the background. Yeah, I've been rocking the Hank Aaron for a little bit, but I got the old Undertaker, one of the Undertaker rookie cards out of that out of that 1991 classic set, man. So I just got that in the mail the other day. Figured I could pull it out for the show.
Nice.
Yeah, it's not the Hank Aaron that I had out the other day, but
Yeah.
yeah. But thanks for watching, Corey. We appreciate you tuning in with us as always. All right, Mike, let's move on now to this third and final game of our showcase games. We have Texas Tech Red Raiders at the Baylor Bears, 147-point total, which is tied for fourth highest on this slate. Ken Prom projected score 78-69 in favor of those Baylor Bears, of course. So, Mike, let's start with those Texas Tech Red Raiders who, since the last time we talked, I believe it's since the last time we talked, did get their first Big 12 victory in between that time. So, maybe a little bit of momentum coming into this spot. But seriously, though, they're having a tough one, as we know, 12-10 overall, 1-8 in the conference. Very efficient offensively, 71st offensive efficiency, 64th defensive, 189th tempo. They do some things right and have some quality players, but just like last time we talked about the Red Raiders, Mike, there's some injury concerns to some of their best players that we might look at in terms of some of the anchors of our lineup possibly, and now we would be looking at these Red Raiders for a little bit more value. Talk about those injuries and then who you might be looking at for these Red Raiders.
Yeah, this is something we got to pay attention to. Man, like AMAC doubtful with the foot, so we kind of know that. So he's looking like he's out. Isaac's questionable with an ankle, so you never know. And just like CBB news, like some guy's in, then he's out, then he's in again 5 minutes before lock. So who knows what we're going to get. I'm going to consider AMAC out. We'll consider Isaac's questionable as we roll through this as a true game time decision. So the prices have kind of come down here. I mean, Banner has really resurged since AMAC's been out. When AMAC showed up for a few games, it felt like, Banner and Bacho kind of took a little bit of a back seat, and it was kind of the pie was spread out a little bit more. Well, the pie is back. So 45 burger for a Banner against a tough Iowa State team, had a 30-36 before that. Just a real tough competitor, man. Like, love his game, can rebound, shoot threes, just a high usage player. So don't mind going to him. Also looking at Davion Harmon. He's 7K. It's flashing back into the 30s again, which is nice to see. You're going to have to score to keep up with this Baylor team on the road. So, I feel like one of these two, if this game's going to stay tight at all, one of these two guys is going to have a pretty good game because the other guys here, these are the guys that are capable of scoring 20 to 30 real-life points, giving them obviously a higher ceiling here. Jalen Tyson, I mean, I don't know, man. Maybe not for me. It's maybe that Texas transfer. Still scarred by that, like we talked about last time. So I think I'd rather go to someone like Bacho, who's 6,500. Only 5 fantasy points, but a little bit limited due to injury. He is now probable. So you can go to him at 6,500. I don't mind it, right, as a pivot off of a Banner. Only for large field, though. There's just no point to playing him in single entry or cash. One, he doesn't take that many shots. I mean, there's a 15% shot rate. A lot of things have to go right for him. You're really playing him in large field to be different from an O'Banner and to separate yourself from the field in case he has one of those, 30 fantasy point outbreak games where he's just grabbing a bunch of rebounds, blocking a bunch of shots, getting some easy putbacks. So that's what you're looking at for Bacho. Still think the primary focus for me is going to be O'Banner and Harmon. And then, if Isaacs is out, we have to look again at Kerwin Walton. He did play 20 minutes again. He burned us last time. Unfortunately, I think he was like 20-something% on that last slate we played him. For some reason, the minutes are going back to Lamar Washington. It's like a flipper coin between Fisher and Washington. I don't know. Like, Mark Adams is just literally flipping a coin as to who's going to play the minutes. Which, I guess it worked out last game. Washington with a pretty solid game, but I don't know if Washington's going to get 7 minutes or 25 if Isaac starts out, and I don't know if Fisher's going to get 7 or if he's going to get 22 minutes. So cheap options, large field tournament plays. Feels like they need this Walton outside shooting, so he's pretty secure with his 20 minutes. I don't know, man. Like, I've missed out on some pretty big Jalen Tyson games. I mean, he's gone off for – I mean, he's been in the 30s and 40s multiple times this year, but he's also had some duds, man. And I don't know. I know he does a lot on the court, but, what's your take on Tyson? And if you had to pick between O'Banner and Harmon, like, which guy are you looking at?
It's O'Banner for me between those two. I don't mind paying up the extra $200 there for what I view as the upside here. I'm going O'Banner, and then I may look to come right behind him with Jalen Tyson here and try to just find another way to make up some money somewhere else. Yeah, I get he's very. I could understand not wanting to have too many shares of Tyson, but it's very boomer bust. It's a very, dicey play, I guess, if you will. You get yourself into a little bit of trouble if he's on that lower end. We've seen the 11s, right? We've seen the 17s. Paying $6,700 for someone you probably, you're not going to be able to get by with that 17 or 11. But we see the 42 fantasy point upside. It comes because he does a little bit of everything. He's a 19% usage rate, you like it. 21% shot rate, you dig it. 26% combined rebound rate, you love it. 10% assist rate, you're going to take that, along with a 3% steal rate. He shoots 36% from 3 on 72 attempts. If Tyson is on, if it's his night, at 6,700, can get into that 6x, 7x range on the right night. And for 6,700, it's an opportunity that I am going to have to take on this slate where, like you said earlier, there's not those big, it's not a stars and scrubs sort of night. Some of these mid-play options, as a matter of fact, I feel like some of the better, the top lineups in this one might just be all sort of in that mid-tier and finding that right value. And I think Tyson is a great step to take in that direction if that's a play that you want to make. Okay, Tyson now. From Tyson here, let's move on to the Baylor Bears real fast. Baylor Bears 16-6, 5-4 in the conference, 4th offensive efficiency, 76 defensive efficiency, 188th in tempo. This is still a good team. This is a really good team. Some higher priced players here with a little bit of value. Where are you going for Baylor, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, the 3 guards, I think. I'm just going to mix and match. Keontae George, he's 8,300. We know what it is, right? If he's knocking down his shots, he's going to score 40 fantasy points. If he's not, it's going to be a dud at that price point. Adam Flagler is really interesting, man. It feels like at some point he is going to break out for a 35 to 40. I'm going to take a few shots at him. The rates are just too high. 23% usage, 26% shot rate, 30% assist rate, shoots 42% from 3, and has a 3% steal rate. There's a 40 fantasy point game coming from him, and no one's going to play him, it feels like. And this is a Tech team that, can be had on the defensive side. I mean, I know they're 64th, but there's been some games where they've given up some points, man. You like the projected total for Baylor here. Obviously coming in with Kim Pump for close to 80 points. So definitely want to take some shots at Flagler. LJ Cryer at 6,900 has been pretty solid. I just don't know for a tournament that you can really play him if you're playing like a smaller single tournament. I don't know if he's cash game viable, but in a small single entry, like I don't mind playing LJ Cryer 31, 24, 29 in the last 3. So definitely don't mind him. I sometimes stack with Jalen Bridges, Jay, who's 6,700 is like for a 2-1. I don't know that I want to stack any of the guards together. Are you on the train for Jalen Bridges and maybe one of these guards, or are you kind of staying away from these bigs?
I think the Cryer Bridges stack is super intriguing just because, they're both so involved in what they do at this price. It's the opportunities that you're going to get. Bridges is going to play minutes into the 30s most nights. He's averaging in his last 10, 29. So, last game he played 34. So, Bridges is going to be somebody that is going to get the opportunity to be out there. 17% usage rate, 19% shot rate, 27% combined rebound rate. You love that. And also 5% block rate. You know, he messes around, gets you a couple of blocks and picks up 8 or 9 boards and then stacks, 18, 20 points on top of that. You got to be in pretty good shape, and it could even be better than that. So I really like Bridges here. You know, you could even look at a Flagler, if you could stretch out a little bit. This is, again, sticking with that sort of everybody in the mid-tier range. So, Flagler's only 76% for what you can get at that ceiling. So I do like, getting a couple of plays out of this Baylor side for sure. All right, Mike, we got through our 3 showcase games there. So now it is time to go rapid fire. We're going to start with the high price tier. As always, this is 7,500 and above. We're looking at, I'm going to go ahead and start this off for us, Mike, here. I'm going to say Adama Sanogo. It's hard for me to get away from him just in general. And this 8,500, I'm still liking it because he's in such a smash spot. This is an opportunity for him. Everything sets up well for him in this game. But the downside of Sanogo, Mike, is that in a bigger, in a bigger field or something like that, this could end up being a blowout for them, and he could see fewer minutes because of that. So it might be a better cash game play, but I like Sanogo. Mike, who are you liking in that high tier?
Yeah, I agree with the Sanogo play. I mean, Georgetown's terrible defensively. All the UConn guys are in play, but man, like all of them could play 20 minutes, and yeah, you're gone in a large field tournament. So for me, I'm looking at Tyler Kolek, who has been an absolute animal over the last few games, and yeah, now he gets Butler. Like Marquette's probably going to smash Butler here. Yeah, I mean, Kolek, dude, man, he's just balling out, man. So it's going to be ride the hot hand there for the 8,200 if you have the coin. Taylor Hendricks, 7,900 at Cincinnati. Like, he's just playing every minute. Super talented freshman. I mean, he's gotten into the 40s a few times here recently. At 7,900, man, if you're going to tell me this guy's going to play pretty much every minute and, can drop a 38, like I have some real interest in him. So Kolek and Hendricks, but I do like that Sanogo call, especially for cash games. I mean, I have a tough time seeing him not hit 30 fantasy points.
Likely to happen, but, it's just, I almost feel like with him it's just as likely for him to put up 15. He gives you that feeling, and it's tough. I don't like having that feeling all the time. But again, 8,500, not a lot of those premium forwards like we mentioned earlier. Sanogo could be your big plug in there, and then build your lineup around him. If he hits, you do too. All right, let's move up to that old mid. Look at these mids, Mike.
The
mid-tier option. That mid. I'm going to go with Liam Robbins, forward out of Vanderbilt. 6,900 here, playing Ole Miss. All right, 17 points in 15 minutes. So it's a little bit deceiving if you're just looking at the game. If you're just looking at the, the totals across the board there. But now looking for those minutes to tick up a little bit. Jordan Wright's looking like he's going to be out with a concussion, so that made me even more be forced into that action. And Lawrence being absent due to the coach's decision, they got to have somebody step up and play big minutes. Why not Robbins? And this is a really good spot for him, especially at 6,900. Who are you looking at in this tier, Mike? What are a few plays that you like?
Yeah, I'll slide over to Vanderbilt as well. Miles Stewart, I mean, letdown mode. Everyone from Vanderbilt let down last game when he only scored like 10 points against Bama.
That was
Yes, I mean, before that 13 burger, I mean, he had 31 and 8 and a 26. I mean, yeah, very volatile, but at 5,700, like if Lawrence and Wright are going to be out, like Liam Robbins and Stute are going to have to do some damage, man. So I don't mind going to either one of them. I'm going back to the UConn side with Tristan Newton. He's 6,600. Been playing really well. All the headlines go to Sanogo and even Jordan Hawkins, who, man, looking like looks like an NBA lottery pick to me. But Tristan Newton, man, like you're gonna get him at lower ownership because of those other two guys and because he's in that mid tier. I like him. I don't. I'm not going to go crazy, maybe a 10% on him to see if he can get to that 30 fantasy point ceiling before all the starters get pulled. The problem with Sanogo is sometimes clinging can get in there and kind of mess things up. Jordan Hawkins is really scoring dependent a lot of times, whereas Newton can kind of do a little bit of everything. Controls the offense, is out there on the floor a ton. So do like Tristan Newton. Josiah Jordan James, Triple J from Tennessee, at home. they scored Tennessee. Rick Barnes, man, like this is what you get, man. He can climb, gets his team to climb to it was number 2 in the country, and then get blasted by a Florida team that has one guy that can
as old as time.
It really is, man.
Yeah.
So, Triple J last year was like 30 fantasy points like every night. Now it's just a struggle for him because there's so many guys on Tennessee, but I feel like he's the X factor for them. If he doesn't play well, like their ceiling is kind of capped. So I don't mind taking a large field shot on him again. I've been going to the well. He rewarded me with the 27. So, I've also been on that 14 and 14 and also had the 39 when he was on the slate. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just going to keep going back to him. So, yeah, those are kind of some of the guys I'm looking at. But I do like that Robbins call, man. Like he coming back from the injury, surprisingly, we thought he was out for a long time. And now all of a sudden it's like surprise. And, of course, he just puts up more than a fantasy point per minute. Like he's just that guy.
Yeah. Even if he gets to, 24 minutes here, like, I mean, you don't even need him to play 30 really at this price for you to get what you want. It would be nice. And, depending on how healthy he is, it did come back a little quick. But if he can play 30, 32, 34 minutes, he's probably going to have to in this matchup for Vanderbilt. I like it's the Robin Stute Stacky Stackerson there. Cheap way to get a couple of plays into that matchup for Vanderbilt. And if those are the guys on that night, we've seen the upside. You put those two guys together for just over 12K. You're in a good spot for the rest of your lineup, and those two could contribute massively to Vanderbilt. All right, one more tier here, Mike, before we get to the the ever anticipated Core Four. Hit that low tier now, Mike. I'll start with you here, man. We're gonna maybe go back to that Vandy well a little bit here in this one. Somebody interesting there that had a big game the last time out. And then sticking around in that game, too. Give me a couple of guys in this tier you like.
Yeah. I mean, these are – so definitely like the Steve and the Robbins, but Paul Lewis is interesting, especially Lawrence and Wright are going to be out again. I mean, going for 17 fantasy points, 3,400. Like, you're just looking for cheap ways to get into some of these games. I'm going to take a few shots on them. We'll see, man. It could be ugly. It could be a dud. But that's just how it goes with some of these low 3K players, right? I was on – Hoiberg the other day, and he was terrible. So I think he finished with 0.75 fantasy points. So that was awesome at like 40% of the qualifier. So that could happen, but also you could also get the 17. I don't know that a lot of people will go there. TJ Caldwell, with the news with Ruffin, leaving the team, and then you've also got the Merle situation where it's really Damari Abram and TJ Caldwell, like these guys are going to have to play massive minutes at 3,900. Like he's probably a lock for 18 to 20 fantasy points. So yeah, there's maybe the fourth type showcase game, right? In a weird game, right? Where this one is, I think the projected total on this one is it's 138. So it's actually not terrible when you have all these cheap guys, right? Like, I mean, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm going a little overboard, so I might need to limit some of that. But I don't mind getting 3 to 4 guys in this game. Like it's, the game goes over to 142. Like some of these guys are going to absolutely smash in this spot. So is there a guy for you in this low tier, maybe a little bit higher?
Yeah, but before, real quick, I just wanted to say if you're not feeling good about some of these higher totals actually getting to where they're projected, this is a good opportunity, where that's a little bit lower of projected total, but you could very easily see it going well over that in the right circumstance. I am going to go ahead and bump up a little bit here in the tier, just under the cap there for this tier. I'm going to go 4,800 for Jaden Taylor out of Butler. So, I like getting the guys that are sort of coming off the bounce or looking for the bounce back. I like looking for that guy a little bit farther down in price. Look for that bargain and then try to pounce on that. And that's exactly what you're getting out of Taylor here. It's the lowest price that he's had all season. He did just drop 10 spots. That little guy, I kind of did worry about that little guy. But he's somebody to consider now because of the upside that he has at 4,800. You're looking at 30 fantasy point upside. So you're looking at 6x and maybe even in that 7x range. So at this price with the upside, he's definitely somebody to pay attention to in that tier, especially, let's say you put a bunch, some of your mid-tier guys are, in the low sevens, high sixes, and you got to make up a little bit of some space here. 4,800 when you get down to it can really help out when you're finalizing your lineups and everything, how they're going to finish up. All right, Mike, that's our tiers. Before we get out of here, Mike, I wanted to ask you, the public awaits for the Core.
Let's do it,
Four.
man. Let's
Who's
drop
the Core
it.
Four, man? What are we doing?
Yeah, for the can't quit you. Cam Hildreth is in there. Tyler Kolek just been balling recently. Liam Robbins, he's gonna have to log minutes here. He's a game changer for Vanderbilt. TJ Caldwell just in a nice spot, man. Too much usage to go around with all the guard situation with Ole Miss. So yeah, Hildreth, Kolek, Robbins, and Caldwell sprinkling in. Going to be working around some other guys from some of the showcase games that we talked about, and some of these guys from these other tiers. And then we also have to pay attention to the value that could open up that seems to come 6 minutes before lock, and then it's a rush to crash all your lineups.
It's tough, I like to get out ahead of it as much as I can, right? You don't want to always be sort of trying to cram things in at the end, but if you're paying attention and you've got a couple of spots, you can always reserve a couple utility spots at the end of your lineup. Follow that fantasy information, follow that injury news. Another big one tomorrow, Mike, another big opportunity here, the 5K to first pull-up jumper. We're going to be looking to get a little bit into that one. Again, there's those 2 Bonanza qualifier seats up for grabs as well. Yeah, some very interesting opportunities here. You watch the show now, you made it all the way through. You're definitely in the right place to, look over at your buddy and ask him, life like this sure is sweet, huh? You're ready to do it. And as always, you came in here, you gave us a watch. We appreciate you. And now, let's get this bread.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. And until the next visit, be well and take care.